14 states across America are holding primaries today on what has been dubbed Super Tuesday. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is favored in several of the states, but former Vice President Joe Biden is hoping Saturday's primary victory in South Carolina will give his campaign a shot of momentum. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone previews Tuesday's voting.
Joe Biden is hoping that momentum from his victory in South Carolina will help him win votes in the 14 state primaries on Super Tuesday.
If Democrats nominate me, I believe we can beat Donald Trump. Keep Nancy Pelosi in the House of Representatives as Speaker and take back the United States Senate.
Biden's win in South Carolina makes him the leading alternative to the frontrunner, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Sanders, a self-styled Democratic socialist, is counting on votes in the two largest states voting on Tuesday, California and Texas.
We are a multi-generational, multi-racial, grassroots movement that is going to create an economy and a government that works for all, not just the 1%.
Tuesday is also the first big test for former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Bloomberg, a billionaire, has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on TV ads and will face voters for the first time. The former mayor is critical of President Trump's handling of the response to the coronavirus outbreak.
At a time when the president should be putting politics aside and rallying the American people behind him, he continues to divide by playing partisan politics. We just can't do this.
Democrats will have fewer candidates to choose from on Tuesday. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar ended her campaign Monday, a day after former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg pulled out of the race after a poor showing in South Carolina.
I will no longer seek to be the 2020 Democratic nominee for president, but I will do everything in my power to ensure that we have a new Democratic president come January.
And billionaire hedge fund manager Tom Steyer ended his campaign over the weekend.
Honestly, I can't see a path where I can win the presidency.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is still in the race, battling for delegates on Tuesday, even though she has done poorly in the contest so far.
And if we want a government that doesn't just work for the rich and the powerful, but works for the rest of us, it's going to take some big structural change.
More than 1,300 delegates are at stake in the Super Tuesday primaries, about a third of the delegates who will attend the Democratic National Convention in July. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
We begin our Super Tuesday primary coverage in Vermont, the home state of Bernie Sanders. Associated Press global media reporter Philip Crowther is standing by live in Burlington with the latest. Hello, Philip. Tell us if Bernie Sanders has already voted where you are.
Yeah, he's already voted here. This polling place is not all too far from the home of Bernie Sanders and Jane Sanders, his wife. They drove themselves here and went into this polling place to presumably vote for Bernie Sanders. At least that's what he told reporters before he entered this community center, saying that he wanted to make sure that he got at least 2 votes in Vermont. This is where he has traditionally voted. He did so 4 years ago as well. And also this state, by the way, is a state where Bernie Sanders very much expects to win easily, probably the biggest margin he will get on this Super Tuesday. He won here 4 years ago against Hillary Clinton and is expected to have a very large margin here as well. After this, we will see Bernie Sanders again here just outside of Burlington, his home state and his hometown. Here in Vermont, he will be holding an election night rally, which he obviously hopes will be a victory rally. And by the way, we should maybe mention that people inside this polling place are not only voting in the Democratic primary, there is a Republican primary as well, though Donald Trump, of course, is expected to win that one handsomely. Maybe just a little reminder of why Bernie Sanders is not that popular across the whole of the country. One voter just drove by me here and said that he wanted me to remember that Bernie Sanders is a communist. That's not only the point of view of pretty much every Republican. Some Democrats also are certainly unhappy about his self-defined democratic socialist definition.
So, Philip, what are Bernie Sanders' expectations moving forward, and is he concerned at all about the endorsement by Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg for Joe Biden? Does that weaken his lead? What are his feelings?
We've heard from the Vermont senator since those endorsements, and his way of putting this is essentially the Democratic Party establishment coming together and trying to stop what he calls his very own political revolution. These are some very, very significant endorsements for Vice President Joe Biden coming on the eve of Super Tuesday, when these 14 states vote in the primaries here in the United States. Pete Buttigieg now on board with Joe Biden. Amy Klobuchar, as you mentioned as well. Also Beto O'Rourke, the former congressman from Texas, who also used to be on that debate stage and left the race for the Democratic primary a few months ago. All of them appeared with Joe Biden yesterday. Again, Bernie Sanders' view of all of this is that this was pretty much inevitable, that the Democratic Party establishment was going to come together and try and stop him from winning this primary and this nomination here with the Democratic Party. We must remind you that Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont right here, is still the favorite to get that nomination with the Democratic Party. But this Super Tuesday will go a long way toward giving us a clearer answer as to where things will stand in November of 2020.
Right, Phil. Thank you very much. Philip Crowther, Associated Press global media correspondent, reporting live from Burlington, Vermont. Now, California is the grand prize on Super Tuesday with more than 400 delegates at stake. Bernie Sanders is also the favorite. VOA's Elizabeth Lee is in the Golden State and joins us live from Los Angeles. Hello, Elizabeth. What's the latest from a state which is a melting pot for minorities and immigrants?
Yes, I am actually in the east part of LA, an area where the minority is the majority here. There are a large number of people from whose parents or immigrants from Latin America, Asia, and throughout the rest of the world. They're American citizens here. And even though this morning it's been a little slow, the polls opened at 7 in the morning. People are expected to come during lunchtime and into the evening. In California, people have started to vote days ago, more than a week. They've had days to vote, and that has presented a problem, especially because several of the candidates, as mentioned earlier by Jim Malone, have dropped out in the last couple of days. So those who voted early now are stuck with a vote that doesn't go anywhere. But many people are still planning on voting today, and I guess in this case, it's where people who are last-minute voters actually has an advantage.
So Elizabeth, just wondering, how is the latecomer Michael Bloomberg being received in the state of California?
Yes, even though, as you mentioned, Bernie Sanders is the front runner here, there are people who support Michael Bloomberg. And the reason is because Sanders is considered a democratic socialist, and not everyone goes with kind of agrees with some of his platform, which is for universal health care and free college tuition. So Bloomberg presents an option for voters who are more moderate. And one voter I had spoken to actually said that they like Bloomberg because he has a lot of money. He's a former New York mayor, a billionaire, and so some voters are afraid that some of the other Democratic candidates may run out of money, and they think Bloomberg has the resources to carry him to general elections, and that's one reason. But they also like the fact that he supports a lot of the minority concerns. But that is one thing that all the candidates want to vie for, which is the minority vote. And so they have all been going from door to door, phone banking, knocking on doors, canvassing. But Bloomberg has been really focused on California with a big media blitz. So he has been airing commercials on television and on social media, on the web. And so he's hoping that that strategy will take him to the general elections.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. Elizabeth Lee, reporting live from Los Angeles.